Hello, and welcome back to The Mothers. I'm your host, Sarah Brown. And if you're tuning in on release date, it is the week before Thanksgiving. In many ways, a perfect time for today's guest, Marisa Renee Lee, a champion for the in-betweens, the hard, the grief, the human, and, as is the title of her Substack, holding both. And if Thanksgiving doesn't present us with an opportunity to hold both, I don't know what does. Sitting around a table of people that raised you, that love you, that you love, but that you may feel disappointed by. Or a table that brings you so much joy and also so much grief that a chair is empty. Or maybe you don't even have a table to sit at, and we're holding the idea of Thanksgiving as something beautiful, but also resent it for reminding us of what we don't have. Or maybe we're holding a glass of red and a glass of white. Or in Marisa's case, most likely a glass of bourbon. Marisa, like so many of the people I get to interview on this podcast, is someone who has taken some of her hardest days and turned them into meaning, both for herself and those around her. She is an author, advocate, entrepreneur, and public speaker committed to helping individuals and organizations thrive during periods of uncertainty and lean into joy. A platform that is deeply inspired by the loss of her own mother to cancer when Marisa was just out of college. By way of Wall Street and the Obama White House, she is now the CEO of Beacon Advisors, a social impact consultancy, and she is a writer, in many ways. You've likely seen her byline in Elle, Vogue, The Atlantic, or also heard her voice and laugh on We Can Do Hard Things. She's also the author of 2 books as of today. First, her debut was the award-winning bestseller Grief is Love, which I highly recommend to anyone navigating their own grief or supporting others in their journey. It was also recently optioned by Al Roker Entertainment for a docuseries. No biggie. Her second book, available now for pre-order, is Waiting for Dawn, which, through her own experience with long COVID, unpacks the universal experience of sitting in and moving through uncertainty. It is beautiful, honest, and just like Grief is Love, a convo with your best friend bound up neatly in a book. Marisa is also, after tremendous effort, persistence, and its own kind of grief, a joyful, wonderful mother to her son, Bennett. Marisa and I set up this conversation months ago, and of course, illness tried to spoil our plans. As she has learned to do, and as I have to learn to do, Marisa asked for what she needed in order to find a way to show up anyway. Thank you, Marisa, for showing up here and all the ways you show up for your people. Through words, laughter, grief, and love, bacon and bourbon. So please enjoy my conversation with the Marisa Renee Lee.
Losing my voice a little bit, but I've got my tea. And I'm ready to roll. Sorry, I have no idea. Like tech stuff is
You're
not
beautiful.
my thing. I was like,
I know.
what? Like,
and it never works
yeah.
when you need it to. Not at all. I too am wearing a sweatshirt.
Awesome. Okay, that's fantastic.
This is a new I'm late to the matching sweatsuit situation, and I regret my prior life because it's
Oh my
way
God,
better.
cozy.
But I found this quiet plug to so Naomi Girma is like this phenom, wonderful center back on the women's national team, and it's just also a brilliant human. Went to Stanford, so she's smart and athletic and all the things. Damn it. Anyway, her close teammate at Stanford died by suicide during college, and so she's like really leaned into a strong mental health platform, and so she did this partnership to do these sweatsuits that are all about the messages: be the good, see the good.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God. You should have her on here if she's a mother. I don't know if she's a mother.
I mean, yeah, she needs to pop out a kid somehow. Let's do that. How are you today, Marisa? This is awesome. I feel like this is the only way I get to see you. This is generally how I feel about this podcast. Is basically like, how can I get on people's calendars that I adore and make them talk to me?
Well, I adore you as well. How am I doing today? I am exhausted. It is election season right now. And in my like non-writer life, I spend most of my time in progressive politics and working for progressive nonprofits. So it's been an interesting time. Not busy at
Oh my
all.
God. Yes. Relentless.
But we're surviving.
Well, yeah, I know. So we typically sort of start this. I know we have like a abbreviated time, which is actually really great because it means we can just get into it.
You can ask me anything. I don't care.
We usually start with a very open-ended, like sort of tell us your story and how we arrive at who Marisa is today. I have bullet point versions of that and can prompt you unless you feel so inspired to give a story.
I'm gonna let you prompt, and I'm probably, given the abbreviated time, I'm probably gonna aim to go deep quickly, in order to make sure that you end up with the best possible content.
You're so generous. Perfect.
I try to be good about this stuff.
Yes. But I guess what I would say is that my impression of your path of being you is that you're someone who, my impression is that you focus a lot on who you are and you're very values driven, and a lot of your work professionally is tied to that, and you're determined to make
100%.
that true. And obviously, catalyst for that is the tragic loss of your own mother just after college, and that has been a guiding light, I think, for the nature of work and what you expect out of work and what you want your life to look like across. I love that you dabbled in finance, but before that you launched the Pink Agenda sort of in an effort to what should have been eradicate breast cancer, but we're still here and everyone's getting breast cancer. You did the finance stint, you did New York City hard, while
So
kind of
fun.
suppressing a lot of hard
Yes,
feelings.
I had a great time though. I had a great time.
Yeah, and then White House, Obama. Holy shit. A moment of hope. That I hope that you're carrying with you.
Trying.
And then have been like your entrepreneurial writer self, I feel like has emerged after that a little bit with you run your own advisory, the CEO of Beacon Advisors, as you were just talking about, launched Supportal, which
great about that.
helps. I often actually stumble upon it when I'm kind of trying to help people or show up for people, because I love the idea of it's trying to answer like, I want to help. I want to do something, be useful, and not ask anything of the person that's grieving. But what do I send them? Yes. So Supportal is beautiful. And then out of all of this hardness, you wrote Grief is Love, which I really loved. And you have your Holding Both Substack. You had in parallel to all this brutal time having a kid, and finally had Bennett through adoption. And in your book, your latest book, Waiting for Dawn, I love you talk about it as this child that was born of your heart and another woman's body, which I think is so awesome, knowing people now that are also struggling their own ways to have kids. I love that framing of it. And then you got hit with long COVID.
Oh yeah, it's been fun.
Casual. And then now you have your new beautiful book, Waiting for Dawn.
It's been a ton, my friend.
About navigating uncertainty, which really is tremendous and so thoughtful. Just the way that Grief is Love, and others have said this with more of a platform than me, but I feel like all of these are basically like, okay, we come to learn that Marisa is the friend that we all need and wish that we had, especially in hard times.
Thank you.
And if we can't talk to her directly, at least we can read her words. But so I was curious. Well, two things. One was, what has it been like to build a platform, at least on your writer side, around some of the hardest things in your life, that in some ways one would want to kind of confront and then maybe move on, but move into a world where I'm not constantly trying to think in this frame or through this framework. But what has that been like? How do you hold both in that context?
It's been interesting. It's so funny. I remember the first time I shared something that felt super vulnerable online. I did an interview with Sheryl Sandberg's Option B platform, and it
Mm-hmm.
was all about the infertility journey that Matt and I were in. And at the
Yeah.
time, there was no conclusion. Like, we hadn't even gotten to the place of being briefly pregnant yet, even though we were a few years into the process. And
Yeah.
I remember, like, there was a photo shoot, there were pictures, there was the article, and then, I had to get everything organized and post to Instagram, and it gave me so much anxiety. And then I was
Yeah.
crying, and so I was like, honestly, I was like, I'm just gonna take an edible and a handful of Starburst jelly beans and go to bed. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
can't, like, I was like, I can't deal with all of these feelings. But I
Mm-hmm.
woke up the next day to, like, a dozen DMs, a couple dozen text messages, and a handful of emails from, I don't wanna say random people. In some cases, they were completely unknown to me and, had just been following along with my story. In a lot of
Mm-hmm.
other cases, though, it was, maybe somebody that we went to college with who I hadn't spoken to in a decade, or somebody from high school and growing up, people reaching out to me and saying, "Oh my god, like, thank you so much. I am dealing with this right now, and hearing that you're dealing with it too, it just made it a little bit easier for me." That was sort of the overarching
Mm-hmm.
feedback that I received. This one guy that I was friends with in college, he responded to an email that was from when I was probably 22 or 23 years old, inviting a bunch of people to a party on the Lower East Side in Manhattan that wasn't even going to start until 11 p.m. And he was like, "This is who we
Mm-hmm.
used to be. And I'm so proud of who you are now, and, like, your willingness to share this story and go deep." And
Oh.
yeah, no, it was super sweet. And I just feel like ever since then, it's been twofold. One, I know that through storytelling, you have the power to build community and help people with whatever thing they happen to be struggling with. And then the other piece of it for me is I do not have the additional capacity to either hide or try to avoid or, lie or be dishonest about the hard things that I'm
Mm-hmm.
dealing with, because that just becomes another thing on the to-do list, and I'm not doing that to myself. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's been twofold. And one of the things that people will often ask me is, I do a speaker series at one of our local high schools where I go in a couple times a year, and the young people get to ask questions, and it's heavily focused on grief and loss and resilience and mental health. And one of the kids, last week, he said, you know, "Does it make you sad, to come here and have us ask you all of these questions and talk about these things?" And I was like, "Honestly, no, like, not anymore." For
Mm-hmm.
me, the sharing and the storytelling is just another part of the healing process. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not walking around crying all the time, but I am doing a lot of sharing, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's impressive. How just even practically, I mean, grief is love. You're
Mhm.
writing emotionally, I'm sure, an exhausting
Yeah.
experience to get it all out there. I feel like with Waiting for Dawn, you were literally
Oh,
physically
yeah.
ill and you had a child. Like, how did you
Lord.
pull it together, or not even pull it together? How did you do this? Because people on their best days, if they have a few of them lined up, can't write a
I
book. But
mean,
you were doing this in the middle of a lot of your worst days.
honestly, I look back and I don't have a great answer to that question. Um, it
Yeah.
was I mean, a lot of it was like a wing and a prayer, like, "Is this actually gonna get done?" When I look back at last fall in particular, and I think about the number of days, like, consistent days, where I didn't even open up this laptop because like, my
Mm-hmm.
eyes hurt too much. I couldn't spend a lot of time looking at screens because I would get this, like, blinding headache, and I just had no
Mm.
energy. Like, I was in a phase last fall and, still getting my kid ready and taking him to school every day, doing all the bedtimes, coordinating meals and play dates and doctor's appointments and etc. I would spend so much time in bed just watching Emily in Paris that, I would get to the point where Netflix is like, are you still watching? Are you still there? Are you alive, Marissa? And the answer was yes. And the whole time, my editor, who's also a dear friend, bless her heart, she was like, it's okay. If we're not going to get it done on time, like, we just have to let everybody know, whatever. She was like very nurturing, very supportive. And at least in the way she presented herself to me, she was very calm and not worried or stressed about it at all, which she should have been. And I'm sure she was, because this book, Waiting for Dawn, that comes out in April, it's the lead title for my publisher in the spring. And so like, this is an important book, not just to me, but like
Deserves
to
to
the
be.
company. And there was a lot of time where I just wasn't sure if it was going to get done, how it was going to get done. But somehow it did. And I did my best. On the days when I could write, I would write. And on the days when I couldn't open up a computer, sometimes I would just make notes in a notebook about, key themes, stories I want to make sure get included, that sort of thing. And then I am very, very lucky in the sense that when I am able to write, I can write really fast, which is an unfair advantage. And so we got to a point where I was basically in the middle of editing the last draft, and one of my non-negotiables through this season of illness was Beyonce's Cowboy Carter concert. And so I went to the concert, managed to make it there. I then had to spend, the following 5 days in bed. Like, my cousin, who's a nurse, was giving me IV fluids in the living room. It was a disaster. But we got the book to a place where I was like, oh my God, it's almost done. Like, this is going to happen. And then, wait for it, my grandma died. And we're super close. She lives 15 minutes up the road. She was super close with my son. And I had to shut off all of the book stuff in order to shift into, obituary and eulogy and funeral planning. And we still managed to turn it in and wrap it up that week. So yeah, for me, like, the book is honestly nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah. Yeah. In the book, you talk a lot about wrestling with your sense of self identity as someone who gets shit done, and how difficult it was with long COVID, which I have to say, I know the headlines of long COVID. Reading your book was the first time I really kind of felt like I could meaningfully understand, empathize with what it means on a day-to-day basis to struggle with long COVID. So anyone that's out there being like, oh, they're just tired.
Yeah,
it's
it's a
deeper than
different
that.
kind of tired. It was like the worst hangover
Yeah.
I'd ever experienced, plus the flu, plus like all sorts of weird neurological stuff. Like, it was special.
Yeah. The entry points that I had, the closest things that are not on that level, but I actually think, given the topic of this podcast, it reminded me a little bit of what postpartum life / any, however long you want to call postpartum, of this. I'm not who I thought I was. I feel physically awful. I've lost what I thought of as my sense of identity, which you nicely talk about. I want to ask you about this too. You talk about identity as something that changed, as a much more sort of job title oriented identity, whereas your values and your essence are things that are more timeless. And in these periods of being unmoored, whether it's through significant illness or post pregnancy, which is its own version of being sick.
Yeah, no, that's real.
How do you hold, how did you, and what did you learn about shifting, redefining kind of who you are and finding your own sort of timeless sense of self-worth, which is something all us achievers, I think, struggle with.
I mean,
if I'm not doing, I don't deserve to breathe.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's true. And I think it's not even just high achieving people. I think it is a big societal and sort of cultural thing in America where your worth is often tied to your productivity. But when we when we stop and think about the things in life that are most precious, they usually have nothing to do with productivity. And again, just going back to the theme of this podcast, like think about a newborn baby and, that experience of becoming a parent. Like there's you obviously have to do a lot to keep that little thing alive, but it's not the kind
Mhm.
of productivity where someone is going to give you an award or you can earn a bonus or get praise at work or anything. It's not that. And like when you are
Yeah.
so engrossed in a culture where over and over again reward and worth and how you are perceived is tied to your ability to check things off a to-do list, accomplish things, get things done, etc. When you are no
Mhm.
longer able to do that for one reason or another, whether you're in the throes of postpartum or have some sort of physical illness or, mental health challenge that you're working through, it's really hard to
Mhm.
figure out where you want to derive your worth from. But I think the important thing for everyone, sick or healthy, is to make a commitment to yourself that you get to decide your worth and where it comes from. And it doesn't have to have anything to do with like spreadsheets or decks or deadlines or awards or, books that you write. Like it doesn't have to do with anything like that. And I think for me, what I kept coming back to was the experience of being with my mom a lot at the end of her life and having a deep understanding for, what are the things that you are focused on at that point. Because I think when we are more able to orient ourselves around the end, it makes the day to day a lot easier to navigate.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. I did often think, and you wrote about it, it's heart-wrenching, the eerie parallels between
Oh yeah.
you finding yourself, as you said, the last thing I ever wanted to be was a sick mom. And how did you manage through that? And sort of take maybe positive lessons from how your mother, who sounds so wonderful, I wish I'd met her, how she navigated it that you put into place, but also wanting to say, I imagine I'm also not sick in that way. I'm going to still be here. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's quite a juggle.
It juggle is a great word.
Mm,
I think so there were a couple pieces of it for me. So first was like finally getting to a place where I could acknowledge that like I was really sick and it took being in another
mhm.
country and not being able to breathe to get to that place. So I don't
Mhm.
recommend anybody having to go that far, but my denial, that's where it led me. And at
Mhm.
least through that experience, I did make some new lifelong friends and have some funny stories about not being able to breathe in Greece. But once I once I finally accepted that I was actually really sick, I then needed to figure out, what am I gonna do about it? And I put that into two separate buckets. Like there is the what do I need to do practically to try and make myself healthy again? Like what is this long COVID? Who are the best doctors? Doing research on like whatever studies existed and like the leading treatments and all of those types of things. And then on the other
Mhm.
hand, it was like, how am I gonna be okay day to day and live without completely losing my mind? And that part was
Mhm.
actually way harder because this side of things, that's, my strategy brain, that's lists and spreadsheets and research and, like things that I am very good at and
Mhm.
comfortable with. This side was more like, oh boy, this is gonna be interesting. And so one of the
Mhm.
things that I did try to do throughout the experience was, think about the ways in which, for better or worse, my being sick was allowing me to also have a better sense for what her experience was. And so it,
Mhm.
it was both like, oh wow, like in some ways even though she's been dead for, almost 20 years, I feel a little bit closer to her in some respects now than I
Mhm.
did when she died, as a result of this experience. And then to your point, I also tried to think like, okay, what was she good at and what was she good about in terms of like living with pain?
Yeah.
Because when you wake up every day with like some form of physical pain, like it wears on you. And so,
Of course. Yeah.
she was really good about asking for help. She was really good about advocating for herself. She
Mhm.
was always like honest with people about how she was doing. Maybe a little bit less honest with her kids sometimes, but like for the most part, she was
Mhm.
very open. Especially given it was like the 90s, like it was a very different time.
Mhm.
And she was very committed to certain non-negotiables. Like, she may be sick, but she was always gonna look good. She would probably not be thrilled that I'm, like, showing up in a hoodie right now without any makeup, but whatever. She
You look
was very
wonderful.
committed to, like, having a good time and, making sure that, like, joy was always present, and she was
Mhm.
always consistently committed to being a good mom, to my sister and I, but also there were cousins that, relied heavily on her. There were people in our neighborhood who relied heavily on her. There are friends that I grew up with, one of whom I actually wrote about in the book, who is estranged from her mom. And, my mother
Mm.
recognized when we were teenagers that her mom was a challenge and, was not someone who my friend could consistently rely on to really care for and support her. And so, my mom played that role for Sabrina too. Like, and so like
Mhm.
recognizing how she coped and what she stayed committed to, like those things definitely helped guide my path to just, getting through the day to day because it was
Mhm.
not easy. It has not been easy.
Tell me about your superpower, which it is interesting that maybe this came from your mother. Asking for help, a theme on this podcast. None of us seem, all of us want it. All of us would love to ask for it, but seem like we don't know how to do it. Um, I also, there's a lot tied up in this, two terms that I hadn't heard of until reading your book. One being this idea of emotional self reliance, that in this culture, we're supposed to want to and find pride in doing it
Yep.
all by ourselves. And this Superwoman schema.
Right?
What a cool concept. I pressures on start as you
So
said,
wild.
Dr. Cheryl Woods
Yeah.
Gisombe, pressures on Black women to maintain strength, suppress emotions, resist vulnerability, succeed despite barriers, and prioritize caring for others over
And
themselves.
and in her case, her research, like I said in the book, it focuses on Black women, but like when you
Yeah.
read that, don't you feel like that's something that applies to like most of the women, right?
Yes.
And so like that's why
A
I
hundred
was like, I'm
percent.
going to include this and I want people to understand that, yes, it is coming from a Black woman and yes, that is the focus of Cheryl's research, but this is most
Mm-hmm.
women that I know. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think, and I can't help but think this way as someone who's been in and around politics since I was 15 years old. Like, you need to
Yeah.
be mindful of the culture in which you exist. And I think it's really important for us to constantly question cultural expectations. And I've
Mm-hmm.
always been, you know, an obnoxious, questioning kid. Like that's who I was as a child. That's who I am as an adult. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna just follow the rules. Like I want to know who made them. Like who came up with this? Like
Mm-hmm.
why are we like this way? Like
Yeah.
who is in charge?
Why?
Like
Yes,
seriously,
exactly.
who
Well,
is
the
in charge?
why.
And when you look back over the
Yes.
course of American history, and like who has been enabled to create the rules that govern our culture, like it's not us. Like they're not black, they're not female. Like it's mostly,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
frankly, historically it is mostly wealthy white privileged men who get to decide how the world functions or how our world
Mm-hmm.
in this country functions. And that
Mhm.
just doesn't really work for me. Especially when, I remember being in AP US history in high school, and our teacher, he was amazing, Mr. Malloy. I still love him so much to this day. He
Mhm.
talked about the importance and concept of leisure time and how much leisure time the founding fathers, like that was his example, had to come up with all of these, ideas and ideals that this country is founded upon, but how that leisure time was actually stolen time, because they relied on free slave labor. And so, like, the deeper I go on culture, the more I'm like, this isn't how it has to be. Like, it's just not.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I feel comfortable, not always, like, it's still something I struggle with sometimes, to be clear, but I feel comfortable asking for help, in part because I'm always a helper. I remember being in 6th grade and being disappointed. I was, class president, naturally, and I was really disappointed when the superlatives came out in the yearbook, and instead of being listed as most popular, I was listed as most helpful. And now I'm like, "Yes,
Mhm.
this is just who
Mm.
I've always been." Like, this week's Holding Both newsletter will be about how you can engage and support families who are losing SNAP benefits. Like, the idea of children going hungry for no reason, it makes me crazy. And so, like, because
Mhm.
I am always oriented around helping and I know how good it feels to be able to help, why wouldn't I ask? And when I feel
Mhm.
like, ugh, I don't really know if I want to ask, or I don't know if I want to ask this person for this thing, like, I push myself to answer the question why. And if I don't have a good answer, I have to
Mhm.
make the ask.
Mhm. Yes. You also talk about trying to be very specific about what you
Yes.
need. And I think sometimes in where I struggle is it's not so obvious to me what I actually need. I'm like I'm overwhelmed. I need someone else to do this. I can't do all of this, but I also don't know if it's in their capacity to help. Um, and I think maybe as I'm
Like,
answering
I
my own
have a
question,
response to
sometimes
this.
it's not that I need them to do the thing. It's that I need them to just like tell me it's okay. But you tell
So,
me.
2 things. I have been super overwhelmed lately between my health stuff and work and book launch. And so I have made myself, like, sit down and just write out all of the things. Like, what are you overwhelmed by? And because, like, once I'm a very visual person, so for me, once it's on paper, I can then see, is there something else that someone can do? And sometimes it's
Mhm.
like a free help situation. Sometimes it's paid, and, like, just getting it out there, I think makes it easier to see, like, okay, these are the places where if I could just have a little bit more capacity, life would be easier for me. And then you just have to trust that at some point it's going to
Mhm.
be your turn to be that person for somebody else.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. Um, okay, one thing we
Yeah,
breezed through, which is ironic given the title of this. You have a child of
I
your own.
do.
I think you've been a mother in all the other metaphorical ways for a very long time, but now you are a mother to your own child. Um, how has that influenced all of these things that you've already kind of grappled with through many other transformational experiences around who you are, what you want out of life, how you want to live your
Yeah.
life? How is it? Have those changed entirely, or were you actually pretty rooted before Bennett
Um,
arrived?
Rooted, yes. And, as you know, kids still upend everything.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but I knew that I was infertile due to a health diagnosis that I received before I even met my husband. And so, when we were in a place where we were ready to start trying to get pregnant, I decided I needed to make some changes in my professional life. I had been working in the Obama administration and then for a nonprofit that's now a part of the Obama Foundation. And I was just
Mhm.
like, this is probably not going to work that well, because I
Mhm.
knew going into the process that I want to be a present and available parent, even though I am also like, primary breadwinner. My husband's a
Mm-hmm.
professor and, works incredibly hard. But at the end of the day, I have credentials that people will pay for, honestly. And so
Yeah.
balancing
Mm-hmm.
the I need to be able to provide for this family and pay for whatever path we go down to try to become parents. And I want to be able to do drop offs and pickups and bedtimes and soccer and, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
I started my own consulting practice in 2017, like in large part to have as much control over my time as possible so that, when
Yeah.
I look back at some point and this kid is bigger than I am and like, a real adult, I feel like I got to have the experience and the time with him that I wanted. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, when these people show up, like these little tiny little humans that you're responsible for, I mean, it's wild. And no matter
Mm-hmm.
how I think no matter how intentional and thoughtful you are around priorities and, values and putting the things in place ahead of time that you can to help take care of your kids, there are still just always surprises. And one of the things that's been
Yeah.
interesting to navigate with Bennett is loss. He talks about my mom regularly. He will randomly
Mm.
tell stories about her. Oh my gosh, I posted this thing to Instagram the other day. One of my girlfriends gave him her old like Nokia phone from when she was in high school. It doesn't work or anything, but he just thinks it's cool to have a
Mm-hmm.
phone like mom and dad do. And he was out with my sister a couple weeks ago and he said, "Oh, he got a call on his phone," and she asked him who he was talking to, and he hands her the phone and goes, "Oh, I was just talking to Grandma Lisa, and she wants to talk to you." And, he's walking through the mall with my sister, and
Oh.
she's like, "I don't even know
Oh
what to
my
say."
God.
Like, he said mom was on the phone, and then right after that, it
Oh.
was our grandma, his great grandma. So, like, he uses his cell phone to talk to dead people.
Oh. Oh my
I'm
God. He
like, "You're
figured it
my
out.
kid.
Of
You're
course
my
he
kid."
did. Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
fun.
How do you intentionally keep your mom as a present figure for him? I'm sure it's something you're like continually trying to figure out,
Yeah,
but
it's been interesting. We keep her present, by just talking about her. There's
mm-hmm.
pictures throughout the house, so, like, he's seen pictures since he was really little and, would ask, "Who is that?" "Oh, that's Grandma Lisa." I have, you can't see it because of the hoodie. I don't know if people will see the video, but I have this necklace that I
Yeah.
wear that is, made from a 25th anniversary ring that my dad gave to my mom. And so for him,
Mm-hmm.
that's the Grandma Lisa necklace. We will bake
Hmm.
something when it's like getting close to her birthday. The week that Grief is Love came out, he got to have pancakes for the first time. Like my mom made pancakes most
Oh,
Sundays,
nice.
most of my life. So it's like we do a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
little things and just keep her
Mm-hmm.
really present. I'll never forget my
Yeah.
dad didn't really know all of these things that we were doing. And so one day Bennett showed him a picture of Grandma Lisa and was like, "Oh, this is Grandma Lisa. Like, do you know her?" Not realizing that I was like, my dad was just
Oh,
speechless. Like he didn't even know what to say to the kid.
yes.
So
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that. That's so useful because I know a lot of people have kids and are trying and are wonder how to keep people that are no longer with us present for them. So it's very useful to hear how you've done it successfully. All right, with a few minutes left, we have these sort of two consistent questions that we ask. Um, if you could go back to your new mom
Ooh.
self, is there anything you would say to her?
Oh my God. What would I say to new mom Marissa? Uh, Honestly, I think the biggest thing is like get as much help as you can. Like
Mm,
I remember just for context for folks, Bennett is adopted. We got a call and we had to be somewhere to retrieve him less than 24 hours later. And we had nothing because I refused to decorate a nursery and, walk by it for months and be depressed. And so we had to have a lot of help. Like we didn't have another option.
Yeah.
But the thing that I hadn't thought about, because, it was obviously a very sudden and overwhelming situation, was just getting help while we were, in another state, away from family and friends, so that we could get more rest. Like, with those first couple of days, and my husband had never changed a diaper, like didn't know anything about babies. So he was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to stay up with you and we'll just do everything together. And that's what we did for the first 48 hours. And it sounded really cute and like sweet at the time. And we got to like almost 72 hours in and we were both like dead, like crying. We were both crying for my dead mom to like come back to life and help us. Like it was so bad. It was so bad.
I'm laughing because it's so real.
It's so real. And so I was like, okay, we're gonna pull ourselves together. I'm gonna stop crying. And I need to just try to put my like strategist hat back on for a second. Like, what would I tell a client to do right now? And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to call the adoption agency. Like, they must have like doulas, night nurses, whatever, like somebody who can come, even if it's just like for 4 hours so I can take consistent nap.
Yeah.
And they sent someone like right away. And this is the other thing I could tell new mom Marisa, like, and I'm glad that I was able to figure this out in the moment, but like the first time you are going to leave your child with like a non-family person, like even though we were still in like the same house, whatever, I knew as soon as I fell asleep, like I was out, like there was going to be no waking me up. And I was like, oh my God, like I just handed this newborn baby to a stranger. Like, oh my God, am I crazy? Like, what have I done? And then very quickly I was just like, girl, you just need to lay down and go to sleep. So getting comfortable, trusting, new people with your kid, like in a way that's obviously responsible and thoughtful, but being okay with that, I think is really important for moms too.
Yeah. I also loved, thank you for thanking your nanny in
Oh my
your acknowledgments
God.
of this book.
Oh my God.
I saw that and I was like, fuck yeah.
No.
Needs to be normalized.
And especially as sick as I've been, like,
Yeah.
no, it wouldn't have gotten written. Like we would have been so screwed. I would have been too stressed and overwhelmed and sick the entire time to have written a single word. So yeah, Miss Juliana, she's good people.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we're lucky.
All right, last question as the clock ticks by.
Oh yeah, it's okay. I'm a minute or two late. It's fine.
Bennett might be listening to this episode when it airs, or maybe one day he will. Is there anything you'd like to say to him?
Oh my God, stop using so many sassy words. I wish I could say I was kidding, but I'll just share a story about like how the extent to which this kid is my kid. Sunday morning, I'm making pancakes a couple weeks ago, and he's in pre-K for context, folks. So he's 4 years old, and he's going through the words that he's learned how to spell so far this school year. And he's like, the, THE, dog, DOG, mom, dad, big. And I'm like, wow. And in my head, I'm like, he's getting pretty good. Like, this is like pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And as I'm like turning around to flip a pancake, he goes, Mom, how do you spell what the fuck? And I was just like, how did we go from big, B-I-G, to that? Like, what is wrong with you? So yeah, I would tell him to stop using.
Maybe it was your mom on the phone.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Stop using so many sassy words. Listen to your parents. And honestly, the real thing is like, I hope he is still as like confident and self-possessed and uncaring about other people's opinions of him as he is today. Does not care. So I hope he's still like
Beautiful.
that.
Hold on to that. Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, Marisa, thank you so much for fitting this in. And fighting through all of the things you're fighting through, and also giving yourself grace. It's really impressive. And thank you for role modeling how to live a healthier life for all of us. So
Thank you for having me. It's good to see your face.
And congrats on the book.
Thank you.
Everyone go buy this book. Waiting for Dawn. We'll put the links in the notes.
Yes, please. We need all the pre-orders.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you, my friend. I'll be in touch.
What a great convo. What a great book. What a great person, despite everything. Let me call V.
Hi. Hi.
Oh my God, what's up, V? I miss you. We're so good at this.
I miss you. I love you. I'm so happy to hear you in my head.
Yes. You're always in my head. I always think, what would V be thinking right now? And okay, so I just had a convo with Marisa Renee Lee, who I know by way of Harvard, womp womp, but we're also much more than that. And it was a convo that I feel like I wish in so many ways that you were on the call, because one of the leading storylines of her life that has kind of informed everything about her, what she does now, is that her mom passed away, breast cancer / was also battling MS, just after she finished college. And in many ways that has informed her approach to work and an expectation of what she, like the impact she wants to deliver, and things needing to be meaningful, and dealing with grief. And so she has this very cool background of, she started something called the Pink Agenda to raise money to end breast cancer. Unfortunately, we haven't done that yet. And then she did a little stint in finance, because we all have to, maybe. And then she worked at the Obama White House. And then kind of fast forward a little bit to, like, she set up her own consulting business supporting nonprofit organizations that are like sort of mission driven causes.
Okay.
And then in parallel has become a writer. Maybe we're all always writer, but she wrote this book, Grief is Love, which is really about all the learnings from the loss of her mom and kind of navigating grief. And so built a platform around like navigating grief, which exists in many ways beyond death. And then she was also struggling to have a kid. So she like grappled with a lot of infertility issues. Ultimately managed to adopt her now son, Bennett, who's 4. And she got married like a little bit before that. And then she got hit with long COVID. And so she was like in this state of like basically just being really knocked out with this long COVID experience, and turned that into a book, or wrote about that for her book that is coming out in April called Waiting for Dawn, which is such a nice concept that in many ways we're all waiting for dawn in our various forms of in between navigating uncertainty. But she wrote that while she was like at half mast, if any, if at all, trying to do all these things at once. And which is remarkable, and a classic example of like, there's some people that are just, they'll find a way to continue to produce. And yet she really talks in this book about, and something that I very much identified with, and I think it resonates. There's certainly a version of uncertainty that is most relevant to illness. But as I was reading it, it also reminded me a lot of kind of like what life kind of after kids, postpartum or not, can feel like in this way of a loss of who you thought you were, both because you can't participate in life in the way that you had, or you can't be as productive, you're not sleeping, you can't, like, you're not delivering, you're not producing in all these ways. And she talks a lot about that in the context of the her illness. But there were just a lot of great lessons from that experience that somehow she's still trying to figure out a way to do it all work. And yes. And what I asked her about too was like this platform around the hardest things in her life. Is that exhausting? How do you deal with that? Like, part of it is like, oh, got to talk about this again. You know what I mean? Right. But what she said, and one of the nuggets I want to pass on, was that I think she talked about that there is one of the identifying traits that of hers was this like wanting to produce something and being productive. But I think she was able to kind of eke it out more because she really loves the feeling of connection and helping people through the work. So it's not like the producing of the book is not the thing, but it's the ability that creates for her to have relationships with other people and ease others' pain is really where the motivation comes from. So it's sort of like a deeper why. That's not like, oh, here, let's dash off a best-selling book, but let's also connect with others. So it's kind of that deep, deep why.
Yeah, that's like a spectacular, I don't know, you think about all of the people you dig deep and vulnerably like write all of these like shitty things that have happened to you and the sadness you feel and the lessons you've learned. And then I love that her why is like because it could help and impact other people. And with probably a majority of those people, she doesn't even actually get to see or meet those people that she's impacted, but like just knowing that they're out there and they exist is like that's so beautiful and like selfless. Like it's so just like even if I never get to connect with them, like we are in this community because there are other people that are like soaking this up and learning from this, and that's so incredible.
Yes. I think I didn't get to ask her about this, but she mentions in the Waiting for Dawn book that the book originally was going to be around being a caretaker or a caregiver. And which I think is in some ways what she's doing anyway, but in all the things that she's writing, just as you said. The other thing, 2 to 3 hot tips. 1, she talks about kind of resisting and being curious about the expectations that you might feel that you have, particularly in times of uncertainty, and kind of being curious about where are they coming from, who created them. Typically, we all talk about like, the white rich man. And what does it actually look like or feel like to meet those expectations? Does that feel good? Or does the goodness of your life so far come from doing things that are unrelated to that? And then, because I was thinking about this sort of, I don't know, for mothers listening, but also for anyone grappling with illness or both, that to the earlier point of like, if you expect yourself to be able to be delivering and efficient and productive in these periods where you can't be, kind of thinking about whose expectations are you trying to meet. So I thought that was really good. She's also a master, although admittedly struggles, but this idea of asking for help is something that she talks about her mother kind of modeling for her, but also for her taking on. She's like, I realize that I can't do this by myself, and the idea of like, how good does it feel when someone else asks you for help? It's kind of another help. Asking for help is sort of being generous in its own different way. And I told her, which I feel like we've talked about too, which is I sometimes struggle to ask for help because I'm like, I don't even know. I'm just overwhelmed. I don't even know what to ask for. Yes.
I just need something.
And her answer to that was like, sit down and just start writing out the list of all the things in your to-do, like all of the things. And both that helps you get clear on what's leading to the state of overwhelm. And then also the idea that then in that process, what you really need help with might emerge. So I know.
I love that. Ooh, I love the tangible advice because that is so true. So often it's like, I don't know, this is just, there's a fucking lot going on. And I feel like I can't actually like delegate these tasks to anybody else, but maybe writing it down, then you're actually able to see like, no, this isn't, it doesn't have to be me. I don't have to do these
fight
things.
the swirl. There's also something that I feel like you'll go googly deep on this afterwards, but she mentioned this construct, I don't know what you say, of the Superwoman schema, which was rooted in the female Black woman's experience. But in the book, she says also has, I think it resonates with a lot of other populations too, in their own way. And it's this pressure on Black women to maintain strength, suppress emotions, resist vulnerability, succeed despite barriers, and prioritize caring for others over themselves. And I was like, wow, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like most mothers also feel a
Can't
little
even
bit like
relate to
that.
that. Weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
Doing it
Wow.
all despite everything. And for everybody else except ourselves. So I
Mm-hmm.
also love the Superwoman grabs it nicely, like invites me into that concept as opposed it's something it aligns with the idea of there's a hero element to doing that and living life that way, but also being like, is it worth it?
And you don't
Right.
have to. And like you don't get a prize at the end of this all, like for not for
Yes.
doing that. It's like
Yes.
it's okay to to ask for help and to not do all of these things. Like there's not a I don't know, at the end of your life. It's like, well, you get this
Yes.
additional bonus because you did that by yourself,
Yeah.
girl. It's like, no, like we're all ultimately ending up in the same at the end of
Yes.
it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ugh,
She did
I
talk a lot
love
about,
that.
and I feel like you have this perspective as well for obviously similarly tragic reasons, but that kind of putting things in that light of like at the end of the day, when life
Hmm.
is over or when I'm at the end, will this,
Yeah. What are you gonna wish
yes,
you did? Or like, what are you
yeah,
gonna, yeah, like, will you be so thankful that you spent time doing X,
yeah,
Y, Z? Or,
yeah.
yeah.
I think
Hmm.
there's something called like the rule of six or something like this trick. I think it was in Marissa's book also about will this matter in the next 6 minutes, the next 6 days, 6 months,
Mm,
6 years or something as a way to like
I love that.
get to that perspective of am I going to die on this hill or
Kind of
not?
like
Yeah.
grounding. Yeah, yeah. Where you're like, yeah, this might matter for
Yeah.
6 minutes,
Yeah.
but
Anyway, it was rich and nourishing
love
and
this.
we should all read this book. It really is. I mean, it
Yes.
made me really understand for the first time what long COVID feels like.
I can't
Yes.
imagine. Also, badass that she's dealing with that and decides like, oh, during this time I could write a
I know.
book because people in their best state of mind, physically, mentally,
Yes.
emotionally, that's a hard feat.
Literally said
So
that to
like,
her and
what?
she was like, I
Yeah.
honestly don't know. It's like kind of a miracle that this book is here. Talking
Wow.
about grappling with illness. You're on your
Oops,
quick
sorry.
recovery, V.
Oh, Jesus.
Um,
Yeah.
anyways, I know we have to jump off to the rest of our lives, but any quick moments you've been dealing with a prolonged version of an illness, hopefully, and thankfully not long
I know.
COVID.
I'm like, not to relate, but exactly,
Any bright
truly.
spots in the midst of it?
No. The bright spot is not like I woke up today feeling less shitty than I have the past like 3.5
No.
weeks. And honestly, like notably
Good.
so, which feels
Was it the
good.
massage yesterday? Maybe it was.
Perhaps, I don't know. I think I also got like maybe a little bit more sleep
Yeah.
last night than I've gotten. Um, so yeah, I think my moment of joy is that like I checked in with my body actually and was like pleasantly surprised with the
Mm,
response that I got of like, oh, I'm getting better. You're not like this isn't
yeah.
the end. I was feeling very defeated for a couple weeks because I just felt like I was like, why am I not getting it's such a like privileged thing. Like, I don't know. Getting sick because I get to have my son in
Mm-hmm.
daycare is like so awesome. And I was like, this kind of sucks. This is just
Yeah.
annoying. Um, so my joy is that it's getting
Good.
better.
You should, I wish I should send you some version of this book because I feel like it weirdly is incredibly relevant to like obviously not as bad, but
To this.
she talks a lot about these feelings. Um,
Hmm.
amazing. And well, thankfully you will get
Love
better.
it.
Your dawn is coming sooner than the long
Yes,
COVID dawn.
my dawn is
Um,
here. I know,
I
truly.
know.
Perspective,
My quick
important.
moment of joy, which I did a shout out of this on in our full interview, but I put on the tracksuit, sweatsuit, jumpsuit situation that I got.
Yes.
This was the Naomi Gurma collab
Yes.
with Mayfair.
Mayfair.
There we go. And
Yeah.
it has the
Mayfair.
whole
Yeah.
like the be the good, find the good. I'm reading my sweatshirt right now. And see the good.
So
And
good.
then it has this little surprise message on the sleeve, like by where your wrist is on the sleeve, which I love, facing just you. And it says, gratitude changes everything. And it does.
Mm.
I've been in an emotional spiral for many reasons, but putting this on made me feel better. And it's so comfy and I
Oh,
feel cool.
I love that.
Yes.
And you deserve that. And Mayfair, if you ever want to collab with us,
Oh my God, yes.
Absolutely. We would be open
We
to
have
the
many a
opportunity.
catchphrase from our conversations. Yes.
We do.
Yes.
We do.
Amazing, V. Well, keep on
Mhm.
keeping on. Keep on getting those little moments of
You
rest.
keep on.
Find your
And you
dawn.
keep finding. It's just that your damn joy. God damn it, if it's the last thing you do.
All right. I love you.
love
Good
it.
luck out there. Okay.
Love
bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode and we can reach even more rock stars like you. The Mothers is a production of Backline Media, shining a light on those who carry the team.